My name is Claire Mitchell. I'm 32 years old, and this morning, I frosted cupcakes for my son's first birthday. The sun was pouring through the kitchen window. Balloons swayed from the ceiling fan. Caleb giggled as my husband, Lucas, lifted him high into the air. There was peace in the room. The kind that doesn't make noise, but wraps around you, warm and still. I stood back for a moment, just watching them. It felt unreal. Because exactly 1 year ago, I was lying on a cold marble floor in a silk dress soaked with blood and amniotic fluid, 9 months pregnant, barely breathing. People were whispering. Cameras were flashing. My father was still holding the tripod. It wasn't just the day my water broke. It was the day something else snapped, too. And to understand why I walked away for good, you need to know what led me there. I wasn't always invisible. But somewhere between childhood and adulthood, my name started slipping out of conversations. One day I was just Claire. Then I became Savannah's sister. She was the golden one. The favorite. The daughter who looked perfect in every photo, said all the right things, and never disappointed them, at least, not publicly. I, on the other hand, existed quietly. When I got straight A's, no one said anything. When Savannah won homecoming queen, there were banners on the porch. Mom, Diane, used to say I was too sensitive. Dad, Edward, said I took things too personally. But all I ever wanted was to be treated like I mattered. After college, I started my own event planning business from scratch. No loans. No help. I worked 16-hour days and built a solid client list by the time I turned 30. When I told them I bought my first condo, Mom nodded, then asked what Savannah was doing lately. They didn't even ask to see pictures. And when I told them I was pregnant, they looked horrified. You're having a baby with that kind of schedule? Mom frowned. Dad just turned the page of his newspaper. No congratulations. No excitement. Not even a when are you due? That was the moment something in me dimmed. I told myself to stop expecting things from them. But part of me, some small, bruised part, still held on. Still hoped they'd come around. So when Savannah's wedding invitation arrived, I froze. It came in a blush pink envelope with gold foil lettering. The kind of card you feel guilty throwing away. Lucas found it first and handed it to me gently. Do you want to go? He asked. I didn't answer right away. Because the truth was, I didn't know. We'd been through this before. Holiday dinners where no one asked how I was doing. Family parties where I felt like furniture. I kept telling myself this time might be different. I don't want to regret not going, I whispered. Lucas nodded. Then we'll go together. But if anything feels off, we leave. No questions. That's the kind of man he is. Steady. Present. The only one who ever made me feel like I belonged. So I said yes. Not because I believed they would change. But because I wanted to prove, to myself more than them, that I had nothing to hide. And just maybe, they'd finally see me. The morning of the wedding, I stood in front of the mirror, trying to zip up the one dress that still fit. Navy blue. Stretchy at the sides. Elegant enough not to feel out of place, but soft enough to breathe in. I was 37 weeks pregnant. My belly was full and heavy, my ankle swollen. Every part of me ached. But I did my hair. Put on light makeup. Slid on the sapphire earrings Lucas gave me last year. And smiled, just enough to look okay. He squeezed my hand as we got in the car. If it gets weird, he said, we leave. I nodded. But deep down, I already knew it would get weird. The venue was a historic estate just outside of town, white columns, marble stairs, and valets who barely looked at us. Inside, everything sparkled. Crystal chandeliers, gold-trimmed tableware, imported roses arranged like magazine covers. And then came our seating card. Overflow table, rear ballroom. Overflow. Like we were extra. Like we didn't belong. Our table was tucked in a dark corner, next to the kitchen doors. The tablecloth was wrinkled. The utensils didn't match. Lucas didn't say anything, but I felt his hand tighten around mine. I gave him a quiet smile. It's fine, I whispered. I expected this. He kissed my forehead and stepped out to take a call. I stood up a minute later, needing to stretch. That's when I heard her voice. Claire. I turned. Savannah stood in front of me like a bridal magazine ad, blush silk gown, perfect curls, flawless skin. Her lips curled into a smirk that didn't reach her eyes. "You're really showing, huh?" she said. "I'm 9 months in," I replied. "He's healthy." She nodded, looked me up and down. "You couldn't find anything more flattering?" I looked away. "I didn't come here for a fashion show." Her smile faded. "Then prove it," she said, pointing toward a massive vase near the aisle. "It needs to be moved. It's blocking the photographers." I blinked. "You want me to move that?" "Savannah, I'm pregnant." "It's not that heavy," she said. "Unless pregnancy made you useless." I didn't respond. I turned to walk away. That's when it happened. She shoved me. Not hard, but not gently, either. Enough to throw me off balance. My body twisted. My feet slipped. And then, impact. My knees hit the marble. A stabbing pain shot through my back. Then warmth. A rush of liquid soaked through my dress, pooling beneath me. Gasps. Silence. Then chaos. A camera shutter clicked. Someone dropped a tray. My mother covered her mouth. Savannah backed away like I was contagious. "You ruined my wedding," she shrieked. I couldn't breathe. My chest heaved. My dress clung to my skin. I was bleeding. I was in labor. And as I tried to lift myself up on trembling arms, I saw him. My father. Storming toward me. Eyes blazing. And in his hand. A tripod. He didn't hesitate. He brought it down on my head. Hard. The crack echoed. Everything went black. I don't remember hitting the floor. I just remember the sound. The crack of metal against my skull. Then silence. Like the world held its breath. Blood trickled down the side of my face. My ears rang. My dress clung to my skin. I was 9 months pregnant, lying in a puddle of fluid and shame. And nobody rushed to help. Not my sister. Not my mother. Not even my father, who just stood there, still gripping the tripod like it had betrayed him. It was a guest, someone I didn't even know, who dropped to their knees beside me and whispered, "Don't move. Help's coming." I blinked. My vision swam. Across the room, I saw Mom. She walked toward me quickly, her heels clicking like judgment. She crouched down, not to comfort me, but to hiss through clenched teeth. "Get up. You're making a scene." A scene. I was bleeding. Concussed. In labor. And she was worried about appearances. That's when something shifted inside me. Not rage. Not fear. Just clarity. They didn't see me as family. Not as a daughter. Not as a sister. Not even as a person. I was a liability. An embarrassment. A threat to their perfect day. And I realized, this wasn't new. This was who they had always been. Lucas burst through the crowd moments later. His voice was the first thing that felt real. "Claire." He dropped to the floor beside me, panic in his eyes. He touched my face, his hands trembling. "Who did this to you?" I couldn't even speak. I just stared up at him. Then the sirens came. The room filled with uniforms and shouts. But I tuned it all out. Because in that moment, I wasn't waiting for justice. I wasn't hoping for apology. I was done. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just let them lift me onto the stretcher. Lucas held my hand the entire time. My mother stood off to the side, arms folded. My father tried to explain. Savannah sobbed about ruined centerpieces and Instagram stories. I didn't look at any of them. The ambulance doors closed. And with that, so did the last door I would ever walk through for them. At the hospital, the labor came fast. Trauma does that sometimes. They rushed me into delivery. And through the pain, I stayed silent. Because what do you say when the people who raised you nearly killed you? Hours later, Caleb was born. He was small. Perfect. Alive. I held him to my chest, and for the first time in years, I felt whole. Not because they loved me, but because I finally stopped needing them to. And in the quiet of that hospital room, I made a promise. I would never explain myself again. Never beg for their love. Never walk back into that house. I didn't slam the door. I just stopped knocking. The morning after Caleb was born, the hospital room was quiet. Lucas sat beside me, half asleep in the chair, his hand still holding mine. Caleb lay on my chest, breathing softly. His tiny fingers curled around my necklace like he knew it had meaning. I should have been thinking about feedings and diapers. Instead, I was thinking about police reports. Because what happened at that wedding wasn't just a family dispute. It was assault. On a full-term pregnant woman. With witnesses. And video. Lucas had already contacted an attorney. Not out of anger. But out of necessity. I'm done letting them pretend, I told him. They don't get to walk away this time. He nodded without hesitation. Let's make sure they don't. 2 days later, we sat across from a lawyer named Mark Holden. He was calm, direct, and unshaken by the details. There are multiple angles of the attack circulating online, he said, flipping his tablet toward us. There it was. The moment Savannah shoved me. The gasp from the crowd. The tripod in my father's hands. The crack. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. Most of them furious. She's pregnant. What kind of monsters do this? Arrest them all. Glad someone caught it on camera. Mark didn't need convincing. This is not just a civil case, he said. We're pressing full criminal charges. Aggravated assault. Battery. Endangerment of an unborn child. And obstruction. He looked at me. You ready to stand for this? I held Caleb closer. More than ever. The warrants were issued that same week. And when the officers showed up at my parents' house, they were still dressed in brunch clothes. My mother was in pearls. My father was grilling on the back patio. Savannah had her nails half done. None of them saw it coming. The neighbors watched from their porches. Phones came out. Voices whispered. The same way they had whispered about me. Only this time, it wasn't me they pitted. It was them. Savannah screamed. My mother tried to talk over the officers. My father refused to put down his drink. Didn't matter. The footage spoke louder than any of them ever could. And just like that, their image. The polished, respectable Mitchell family. Was shattered. They weren't escorted gently. They were cuffed. Put in separate cars. Taken in through the back of the station to avoid the press. It didn't work. By noon, the story had made the local news. By evening, it was national. Bride's sister assaulted at wedding, baby delivered after violent scene. Father attacks pregnant daughter, wedding ends in arrests. I watched the headlines scroll from my hospital bed. Not with satisfaction. With silence. Because I didn't need revenge. I needed truth. And for the first time, the world saw it. Not the version they told at dinner parties. Not the filtered smiles. The real story. I didn't speak to the press. Didn't write a statement. I stayed with my son. Fed him. Rocked him. Healed in quiet. But I knew something had changed. The house they built on lies? It was gone. The guests who once adored them? Silent. The friends who looked up to them? Now looked away. And as for me? I never once looked back. The trial didn't happen right away. The legal system moved slowly. But I didn't mind. I had time. And for once, I had clarity. By the time the court date arrived, Caleb was 6 months old. He had his father's eyes and my stubborn jaw. Lucas carried him into the courthouse in a soft gray carrier strapped to his chest. I walked beside them in silence, head high. People stared. Some whispered. But no one looked away. The courtroom was packed. Savannah sat in the front row, dressed in black, her face pale. She cried quietly. About her ruined reputation. About her stress. About how it wasn't intentional. My mother clutched a tissue she never used. My father refused to speak, letting his lawyer do all the talking. They painted themselves as misunderstood. as victims of a miscommunication. A family misunderstanding gone too far. But the videos said otherwise. The witnesses didn't stutter. The doctors confirmed my injuries. The maternity team described my condition. There was nothing left to spin. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I simply told the truth. And then I held Caleb up, so they could see him. The boy who nearly didn't make it. Because they couldn't control their need to humiliate me. The silence in that courtroom was heavier than any verdict. But when it came, it was firm. Guilty. All counts. The judge's voice didn't shake. My father, Edward Mitchell. Aggravated assault. Sentenced to state prison, no early parole. My mother, Diane Mitchell. Obstruction and verbal harassment of a victim. Sentenced to 1 year. Savannah Mitchell. Reckless endangerment, assault, and attempted coercion. Sentenced to 5 years. The gasp from their side of the courtroom didn't surprise me. They had never faced real consequences before. Never thought the rules applied to them. But the rules didn't care who you were. Justice isn't interested in family dynamics. It's interested in truth. As the bailiffs led them away, no one looked at me. And that was fine. Because I wasn't there to be seen anymore. I was there to be heard. And I was done whispering. After the sentencing, I didn't celebrate. There was no champagne, no victory speech. Just quiet. The kind that comes after a storm. Lucas and I moved into his childhood home, a modest, 2-story house with a wraparound porch and creaky floors. It wasn't perfect. But it was ours. I decorated Caleb's nursery with soft blue walls, hand-painted stars on the ceiling, and animals I sketched during nap time. Each stroke was a quiet promise. You are safe here. You are wanted. You are free. Lucas returned to work on a flexible schedule. I slowly restarted my event planning business, this time on my own terms. I no longer buried myself in work to escape. I worked because I loved building beautiful things. And because Caleb deserved to see his mother do what lit her up. Our days were small but full. Morning walks in the park. Friday night pizza on the couch. Lazy Sundays filled with cartoons and pancake batter in Caleb's hair. We found a new church, a quiet, welcoming one where no one asked about my last name. Where people knew me by my kindness, not my scars. Sometimes strangers came up to me. I saw what you went through, they'd say. You're brave. But bravery wasn't what saved me. Clarity did. The moment I stopped begging people to love me, I made room for people who already did. And in that stillness, I found peace. Not the performative kind. The real kind, the kind that doesn't need explaining. I kept no contact. No calls. No visits. No second chances. Forgiveness is not the same as returning to harm. I forgave them, for me. But I didn't go back. Not once. The past no longer owned me. And it never would again. If you've ever been silenced by the people who should have protected you, I want you to know, you're not alone. You don't have to scream to be heard. Sometimes, the quietest exit is the loudest truth. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, leave a comment. Tell me what part stayed with you. Or just say, I hear you. And if you want more real stories about strength, silence, and starting over, don't forget to subscribe. Your voice matters here. And so does your healing.